Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 359 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, my good friend Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. How you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. I'm going to dive straight into these fights here. I'm going to whiz through it. I'm on vacation, so I'm going to try, or I don't know why I turn Americanized when I speak to you, Eddie, but I'm on holiday, I should be saying, and yeah, that doesn't get in the way of the podcast. It still has to go out, of course, and I'm going to just try my best to make it pretty speedy this week. We're going to start with the review part, as ever. This one took place last Thursday, so a week ago today, at the Hangar in Costa Mesa, California, USA. It was live on Fight TV. So Thursday, August 25th. It's just going so fast this year, it seems like, for me anyway. Ernesto Mercado, friend of the show, now 7-0, a second round KO here against Alfredo Blanco, who's now 22-11. That is the 7th KO in Mercado's career. Every fight won by knockout. He's the guy who had about 300 amateur fights. We had him on a few months ago. This one took place on the Friday. Murat Gassiev with a win. He had his 30th pro fight. He's now 29-1. Still has that sole defeat to Alexander Usyk. A first round KO here against Klaus Welch, who's now 21-3 with a draw. It was for the Eurasian Boxing Parliament heavyweight title. Murat Gassiev with a really quick and easy night's work, to be totally honest with you. We do need to see him way more active than he has been. I just still do not quite understand what's going on with him. I don't quite get it. The move to heavyweight from cruiserweight seemed to take ages, and then, when he fights, he has an opponent like this, and we see one round of boxing, and then how long are we going to have to wait to see him again? This guy absolutely needs to get back. There's so many guys out there in the heavyweight division that I think he could probably beat, but we need to see the fights. I mean, at this point in time, no one's talking about him as a potential threat to the heavyweight crown or the heavyweight crowns. No one's talking about that at all. Why not? I mean, this guy, should be right up there boxing the likes of, I don't know, the top contenders like your Dominic Brazils, like your Charles Martins, like your Gerald Washingtons. These guys, there's so many guys to pick from. I just don't understand what's going on with him. He is still young though, apparently. Moving out now to the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. This one was live on Sky Sports, a top rank card. I'm going to start with the undercard. I'm going to just touch on this. I didn't actually see it, but Efia Jagba with a win, a TKO in round 2. He's now 16-1. He was able to knock out there Joseph Darmos, who's now 14-5 with 3 draws. Darmos down twice in the second round. Heavyweight big baby Jared Anderson, now 12-0. He came to the ring in shackles. And he was dressed in like prison overalls. Really kind of weird. I've seen it done, I think, once before. I think it was Denis Berenchik. I think the Russian fighter, or is he Ukrainian? I really shouldn't mix the two up. I think he's Ukrainian, so forgive me there if you're Ukrainian and I've just mistook him for being Russian. But anyway, I've seen him come and do it. He's got a lot of, outlandish ring entrances going. But yeah, Jared Anderson doing it. I mean, it took a while to get the handcuffs off his ankles, and I don't know. I think his brother's been locked up and it was some kind of tribute to him. I don't know. friend of the show, Jared Anderson, always exciting. 12 wins, 12 knockouts. Another one here against Milyam Rovkanin, and he's now 24-3 Rovkanin. But yeah, I don't know. Didn't think it was that necessary. Just seemed a bit out of place for Jared Anderson. But look, I mean, we're talking about his boxing, not his ring walk. Maybe I shouldn't even be saying it, but impressive. Good stuff for him. Elsewhere on the card, Richard Torres Jr. I think he's 3-0 now with 3 KOs, but he recorded arguably the most brutal knockout I've seen of 2022. Marco Antonio Canado, brutally knocked out. Oh man, I'm trying to remember it now. I know it was absolutely brutal. I know he hit him with a shot and he was out, completely out. He was on the way down, and I think he hit him with about 2 or 3 other shots, and including a really big right hand that kind of snapped his head back the other way while he was on the way down. And he I mean, it was brutal. He was face first down on the canvas. When they turned him over, his eyes were wide open. He wasn't blinking. They were kind of, trying to massage his heart. It looked really dangerous, and I was quite surprised the camera didn't pan away, but no, they zoomed in, and you could just see his eyes wide open like he's, like he'd seen a ghost. I haven't heard any updates on his condition. I'm guessing it's all okay, because we would have probably heard otherwise if it wasn't, but it was one of the most brutal knockouts I've seen. Yeah, it really was. It was a terrible knockout, and I think he was down once prior to the stoppage, if I remember correctly. But the knockout was brutal from Richard Torres Jr. Moving on to the main event, Jose Pedroza now 29-4 with a draw. Richard Commey 30-4 with a draw. No one likes a draw in boxing. We don't see it too often. But this was a fight, I think, that was kind of scored quite fairly, I'd say, in the end, when you look at it and say, yeah, it was a draw. Obviously, there was a card either way, and then the draw, 95-95 from Gary Ritter. David Sutherland, I think, had it to Pedroza, and Henry Guerri, I think his name is, had it to Richard Commey. Richard Commey had his moments, to be honest with you. He still looked like he could, he brought the power up really to 140. Still looked like he could pack a good punch. Jose Pedroza, I've said it for years and years, so underappreciated. I honestly think he's one of the most skilled fighters in boxing, period. I know we've got a lot. We do have a lot, and that's quite a big statement that some people may go, what the hell are you talking about, Joey? But he's a very skillful guy. Just like, I remember having a conversation years ago, and I said that Malik Scott was one of the most skilled heavyweights in the world, and some people can laugh at that, but it's true. Malik Scott had a whole load of skills, and Pedroza's a very, very skillful guy. He's got every punch in the book. He's a tremendous mover. He has it all. He really does have it all, and I've always been a big fan of Pedroza, so anyone that can beat him, for me, is held in hugely high regard. I'll never forget, obviously, Gervonta Davis breaking on the scene, bursting onto the scene and getting Pedroza out of there. That was so impressive, and it's only gone on to be more impressive as time's gone on. It's aged so brilliantly, because no one has been able to do that really to Pedroza since then. But yeah, I felt it was quite a fair fight in the end. Very 50-50, like I say. Commey had big moments, and he started quite well. Pedroza, with the, I guess, more experience, really, kind of took over in some parts of the fight. But yeah, just a really close fight. I don't really have anything else to add to it. And like I say, I tried to whiz through the review part as fast as I could right there. That's all I have to say. Eddie, I don't know if you saw anything from last week. If you did, then tell me what you think. And if you didn't, then we'll just welcome our special guest.
Yeah, I seen a little bit of Pedroza and Colby fight. It was good. It was back and forth. You know what I mean? Like you said, nobody likes to draw. It's not a popular decision. But in this case, it was like a real back and forth. I didn't see the entire fight, but because I was actually out and I actually was watching it on in a casino, believe it or not. But it was a good fight. It was a really, really, really good fight going from what I've seen. Obviously, I thought in the last round in particular, I saw Comey came, and I think Pedroza had a really good round 9, and then Comey came out strong in the 10th early on, and but then Pedroza came back a little bit. Like I said, if you're going to give a fight a draw, you know what I mean, it's got to really be warranted. And I think in this case, I'm not saying that, that one of them couldn't get it. I mean, you flip a coin, but in this kind of a situation, I think a draw was appropriate. And it's a good thing, too. It doesn't affect either of their records in a bad way, and both their stock goes up. Because, like I said, it was a fantastic fight. Both fighters came and they threw punches. They did what they had to do to give the fans what they came to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we wrap up part 1, the final thing for me to do is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the popular heavyweight and former co-host of this podcast. It is, of course, Mr. Hasim Rahman Jr. Hasim, welcome back on the show, my man.
Joey Joe, what's up, man? It's good to be back. It's good to be here.
Always good speaking with you, Hasim. So we last spoke only a few weeks back, really, back in mid-July. At that time, you were set to fight Jake Paul. I don't want to go into that. We all know what happened, of course. But first things first, how are you and how was your visit to the UK? All 2.5 days of it.
It was awesome, man. It was awesome. Being in the UK really... It opened my eyes up to how big boxing is around the world, and how many people actually are in tune with what's going on in the sport that I love. And I received a king's welcome in England, so it was amazing. I can't wait to go back, and I'm very excited for everything that's to come.
Absolutely. While you were here, of course, you announced live on DAZN that your next fight will be taking place in Sheffield, England on October 15th. You'll be boxing Vitor Belfort. Tell me, Hasim, what do you know about Vitor?
I know that he's a MMA legend, superstar over there. He has a huge following. I know that he's very ferocious in the ring. And I'm looking forward to facing someone who is a black belt, someone who is well versed in combat fighting. So I'm looking forward to putting my skills on display against his skills in the boxing ring.
And you received, as you said, a very warm welcome, a king's welcome from what I could see from the UK fight fans. How excited are you to be boxing here, though? Because I was obviously with you on Saturday and you were real excited about just going to the event on Saturday night as a spectator, but to actually be competing, fighting, doing what you do best. How excited are you for that?
Man, words can't really describe it. It's a brand new feeling, and it's a feeling that I feel like has been built up in me for a long time. Just because I wanted so badly to compete in the Olympics when they were in London. And I fought through the U.S. Olympic trials. Obviously, I came up short, so I wasn't able to go over and compete. And, a lot of people never get the chance. They fight for years and they box for years and years and years, and they never get the chance to go over to such a place that loves boxing so much and be able to display their skills. So I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity.
And there's been a lot of rumours circling in the past, if I'm not mistaken, about Vitor perhaps being on PEDs. A lot of people felt like he'd been juiced up in the past. Is that a concern to you in any way?
I mean, it's a concern, but it's not anything highly alarming. I feel like he's severely handicapped in this fight. Sometimes you'll have a handicap when you go into sparring, and a fighter won't be able to use their jab, or they will only be able to use their jab and have to host a whole sparring session with just the jab. And sometimes you have to stay orthodox. Sometimes you have to stay southpaw. That all plays an effect in what's going on in the ring. And I feel like Vitor will be severely handicapped come October 15th. He's not going to be able to do the things that he's used to relying on in order to maintain success. he's gonna have only his two hands. So the PEDs, obviously that's always a concern when you have someone who's a habitual user. But for this fight, I don't see it playing a huge effect. I think that my boxing skills are going to pay the bills on October 15th. I think that regardless if he's on PEDs or testosterone boosters or whatever he's on, it's not going to be enough. I think that my jab is going to dictate the way this whole show goes.
And talking about the jab dictating how the show goes, how many rounds is this fight, Hasim? And is it a proper fight that's going to count on your respective boxing records?
As far as I know, yes. It'll be a professional bout, and it's for 4 rounds. It's a 4-round bout. So I think that people can expect to see fireworks, especially in a 4-round fight. He's known for not having the best gas tank. I'm known for my issues with cardio, so I think that it'll be a very, very fun fight to watch and see who runs out of gas first, see who can push that button to knock their opponent out.
And the fight's only 6 weeks away already. Obviously, you were here on the weekend. You're now back home. You're going to be here again, obviously, in 6 weeks' time. And I know it's still a little bit early, but have you got a plan yet of when you're looking to arrive back in the UK for the fight?
Yeah, I'll be there the week of the fight.
Okay. And you posted something on social media which I found interesting. You posted, I think it was 7 different fight posters of you against 7 different opponents, which I'm guessing you want to fight in the future. Tell me more about that. Is that the long-term plan?
For me, yeah, I would like to fight everybody that I posted. I feel like all those fights are makeable fights. I feel like all those fights can be made, and not only can those fights be made, but they can be made anywhere in the world. They can be made in England. They can be made in America. They can be made in Saudi Arabia. Those are all fights that can be broadcast and be held anywhere in the world.
Okay. And my final 2 questions for you. I'm going to come to you about this one first. I just wanted to get your fight prediction, Hasim, if you have one. You mentioned that you're both kind of known for I guess, not having the greatest of stamina. It's obviously a 4-round fight. I think everyone's probably expecting a quick start. How do you see the fight unfolding over the 4 rounds?
I just pray for victory and health. And I'm looking to come in healthy and leave healthy, and I'm looking to leave victorious. So however that comes, whether it be a first-round knockout or a 4-round war, I'm just looking to show that I'm the superior boxer. And this has nothing to do with anything he's accomplished outside of a square circle. This is straight hands. It's straight all hands, no feet, no grabbing, no headbutts. Like I said, this man is severely handicapped, and I just look to let the boxing do the talking. Sometimes you get in there and you hit a guy with a shot in the first round, and then he finds a way to survive for the rest of the night. There's nothing you can do about it. And then some people get hit with a shot, and then they come for it harder. And I think that's the type of fight I'm in for. I think that once I hit Vitor, I think that he's gonna come in even harder and even faster and even stronger. So I'm looking for the pace to increase every round. I think it's gonna start fast and it's gonna be fast the entire time. He will be the fastest opponent I ever faced. So I'm looking for this to be a show full of fireworks.
Vitor, we all saw him blow away Evander Holyfield, obviously. Even though your father, of course, boxed Evander when your father was fighting, so I don't know how you feel personally about Evander, but is there a bit of you that kind of wants to get some revenge for Evander, for the whole sport of boxing, for what Vitor did?
It's not really even about Evander. It's more so for boxing. I think he was really on his high horse after the fight. The man was yelling and screaming at the microphone immediately after the Evander Holyfield fight. So that even more touches on your PED question. But I think that no matter how old you get in this sport, and no matter how old you get in either sport, when it comes to combat fighting, you still can learn. And I'm looking to give him a lesson come October 15th.
And I'm just going to throw this in lastly. How do you feel about Jake Paul at the minute, Hasim?
I still feel the same way. I still feel like he's a fraud, a phony, and I want to expose him. So if this fight gets me even closer to getting in the ring with him, then all the better. I think that it's only a matter of time before he gets exposed, and I may not be the first person to expose him. Maybe Anderson Silva beats me to the punch.
Okay, Hasim. Well, like I say, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time. It's always good to have you back on the podcast. This was your home. This is your home. And we'll catch up closer to the fight, I'm sure, on October 15th.
Always great talking to you, Joey. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's podcast. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Just one piece of news to mention as it stands. Dimitri Bivol will be defending his WBA light heavyweight world title against his mandatory challenger, the former super middleweight world champion, wasn't he? Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. That one's going to be going down at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. That's going to be Saturday, November the 5th, live on DAZN in all countries apart from, I think it's South Korea, which is kind of random, but whatever. But yeah, so good to see Dimitri Bivol back out. Good to see Ramirez finally in a step up, because you vacate your WBO title, you move straight up into the mandatory position if you want to, should you move up in weight. And he could have had the shot, I think, a lot sooner, but he's bided his time. He's boxed guys who I think we all knew he was going to beat quite easily, and here he goes, putting it all on the line. And I want to say that I think Ramirez has the longest undefeated streak in boxing, certainly at the top level right now. I think he's, off the top of my head, he's got to be 40-something-0. I think he's 44-0. So, he puts it all on the line finally. And yeah, it's been a long time coming since he's, boxed a really high level opponent. We didn't even really see it during his reign at super middle, because for whatever reason he didn't seem to get it on with the other champions, and it was a great shame, to be honest with you. But anyways, it is what it is. It's a thing of the past. Like I say, only one piece of news to mention as it stands. So moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. It takes place on Saturday at a place in Mexico called Sonora in Hermosillo. Over here, this one's going to be on DAZN, by the way. Over here we have, let's start with the undercard. Just really one fight to mention on the undercard. Hector Calixto, who's 20-0 with 4 draws in a 12-rounder here against Sivanahi Nonshinga, who's 10-0. That's a fight there at light flyweight. Moving on to super flyweight, though. Oh, I love seeing this guy fight. Juan Francisco Estrada, 42-3, returns to the ring after, I think, a year and a half out, if I'm not mistaken. And last time we saw him box, we saw him beat Chocolatito. So we haven't seen him fight since then. It was a year and a half ago when he beat Chocolatito on a split over 12. He gets in here with a guy called RG Cortez, who's 23-2 with 2 draws, never been stopped. His 2 losses came back to back in 2014 when he was DQ'd in round 3 against this undefeated guy, in round 3 of a 4-rounder, by the way. And then the very next fight after that, he lost a majority decision over 4 rounds. So we know that both of those losses really are quite questionable. And they were both to undefeated fighters. Since then, though, he's put together just wins, and a couple of I was going to say losses, couple of draws. So yeah, he's had a lot of fights since then. He was 2-2. That's how he started off his pro career. Since then, he's put together 21 wins and 2 draws. So undefeated there in 23 fights since then. He's 27 years of age. And yeah, he's been quite active. He's boxed twice this year already. So yeah, obviously not nowhere near this competition, this level of competition, but it's going to be good to see Juan Francisco Estrada back. Will he become the first man to stop RG Cortez? That is probably the most prominent question on my mind. Both guys, tough Mexicans. Anyway, that's it for Mexico. Moving out now to the Echo Arena in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom over here. Let's start with the undercard. I don't know if he's definitely fighting, but he's been put on the undercard as far as I'm aware. Fraser Clark, the heavyweight, what was he? Was he a silver or bronze medalist from the latest Olympics? I think it was a bronze. Anyway, 2-0 Fraser Clark as a pro. No opponent just yet for him. So like I say, not entirely sure if he's going to be fighting, but he is on the card apparently. What else do we have? Adam Azim, always good to see him fight. He's 5-0. He's supposed to be in an 8-rounder. No opponent just yet for him. Good fight on the undercard. Supposed to be quite competitive, this one. We've got John Doherty, 12-1, getting in with the undefeated 8-0 Diego Costa, who was born in Brazil but now resides in Merseyside. He's apparently quite a good fighter, this Diego Costa, from what I'm hearing from insiders. Elsewhere on the card, we see Natasha Jonas defend her WBO World Super Welterweight title, straight away jumping in with the WBC champion, Patricia Bergholt, who's 15-0 with 3 KOs from Sweden, 28 years of age. Great to see a unification. I hope it gets pushed up to like at least co-main event, because I do like watching Natasha Jonas fight. Obviously, we've seen the vulnerabilities in the past, but she is a big puncher. For a female, I think it's fair to say, certainly around those weight classes there, not full of big punchers, but it's going to be good to see her getting in with this lady here who is undefeated. I'd like to see the odds on the other lady, to be totally honest, but saying that, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the other lady fight. Been in with Hannah Rankin, beat Hannah Rankin, but Hannah Rankin does have a few losses. Anyway, could be a good fight there. Hopefully Natasha Jonas becomes unified champion. That of course is over 10 2-minute rounds. Dan Aziz as well. This is a really good fight. Dan Aziz 16-0, defending his British title against former holder of the belt Shakan Pitters, 17-1. That one loss came to Craig Richards. It's a great fight, really good fight. I'm happy to see 2 of the best light heavyweights we have in the country getting it on. Obviously, I've said for many years now, there's so many great domestic fights that can be made at light heavy. I'm really happy to see this one going ahead. Dan Aziz, at times I think he's got a decent resume, to be honest with you. The likes of Jose Burton, when I think about it, Andre Sterling, Ricky Summers, those kind of guys. But there's big fights for him, and I think the reason I shouldn't be frustrated with him, but I feel like there's something quite special about Dan Aziz. I'm starting to notice it more and more every fight, and the reason I'm a tad bit frustrated is just because I think there's probably big fights out there that can be made in this division against maybe slightly tougher opposition than he's been in with in the past, and Shakan Pitters is the kind of guys that I'm talking about. Of course, I'm talking about the slightly higher guys than Shakan Pitters, like Craig Richards, like Buatsi, like Anthony Yard, like Callum Johnson, like maybe not Callum Smith just yet, but I think he's just a kind of in the conversation with those guys, to be honest with you. Dan Aziz, I really like that win over Jose Burton. That was really impressive a couple fights back. He stopped Jose Burton. So yeah, he gets in with Shakan Pitters, who can be a nightmare, 6'6", obviously, at light heavy, which is a rarity in itself, and he's a good boxer, Shakan Pitters. So I think this is going to be interesting to see how he copes with the size of Shakan Pitters. All the best there to both men. And the main event, Liam Smith, 31-3 with a draw, former world champion, gets in with Hassan Mwakinyo of Tanzania, based now in Miami, Florida. What a life he must be living over there. 20-2 is the record. I guess famous really for knocking out Sam Eggington in 2 rounds back in 2018, but he did build off that slightly when he got in there with a faded version of Julius Indongo. That one was last time out. That one was in September of 2021. He was able to knock out Indongo in just 4 rounds. So I think the power is real, sort of. But yeah, you know, we're talking about him fighting Liam Smith, one of the best fighters we have in the UK, who's notoriously tough as old boots. So I think I don't even really know if it's a good fight, to be honest. I'd say he's going to probably stop Mwakinyo, probably with a body shot. Yeah, Liam Smith, really good fighter. Mwakinyo, yeah, a bit of a flash in the pan, even though it can come across at times a little bit disrespectful. Okay, that's it for that one. Moving out now to the Huntington Center in Toledo, Ohio. This one over here, just one fight to mention. I don't even think it's televised, but I just want to mention this guy's name at every opportunity I get a chance to. Albert Bell, 21-0 in a 10-rounder here for the WBO, NABO Super Featherweight title against Nicholas Polanco, who's 20-2 with a draw. I just want to say, why are the US guys not making more noise about Albert Bell? I think he's a really good fighter, but I don't think he's with a major promoter. So unfortunately, because of that, it seems like, I don't know, he's just not on the tip of the tongues of boxing fans, and they're not really talking about him in big fights. He's got good rankings. I just don't understand why no one's pushing him a bit harder. I don't even have to check, but I just can guess that he doesn't have a big social media following. He's one of them guys. He's just not been managed or promoted well. And I remember him beating Andy Vences 3 years ago now. And Andy Vences, I think was with, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Top Rank. Could be wrong, but it seems like he has had more push since losing to Albert Bell than Albert Bell has had. Because I think Andy Vences had the fight with John O'Carroll and stuff like that. You know, there was a lot of hype there. But Albert Bell, the guy that beat him, doesn't have that hype. And it's just kind of weird to me. I know he's not a big puncher. He's only 21-0 with 6 KOs. I don't know. You know, he's a big guy for the weight. He's a 6 foot tall super feather. You know what I'm saying? This guy needs to have more noise made about him. And if I can do my bit, then I will. Moving out now to this one here. I'm not sure which one to go to first on this. Yeah, let's go this one. This one takes place, by the way, at the Farmers Market in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, USA. Again, it's not going to be televised, but I just want to mention it. He's been around forever. Carson Jones, 41-15 with 3 draws. He hasn't fought for 4 years. 4 years out the ring. Sorry, 3 years out the ring. Just checked it. 3 years out the ring. And he gets in here with Demetrius Walker, who's 8-37 with 2 draws. Again, there's not too much on this weekend, so we are a little bit clutching at straws. But yeah, 3 and a little bit years out the ring. You got to mention the old man. And I say that respectfully. I think he wouldn't mind. He's got to be about 55 years of age now, Carson Jones. He's been around forever. And then the big card of the weekend goes down at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California, USA. It's going to be on Fox pay-per-view. The annoying thing about it isn't that it's on pay-per-view. The annoying thing is that it's on Sunday. So I guess this inconveniences a lot of people, especially in the UK. You simply can't go to work the next day on the Monday if you're watching this fight card, I don't think, because I'm guessing it's going to be on really late over here. It'll be early hours of Monday, I would have thought. And in the US even, I guess it depends on what time zone you're running on, but this is a not a late card, sorry, an inconvenience if you're working on Monday, regardless of where you live in the UK or the US. Certainly, though, the UK, you can't go to work on Monday if you're planning on watching it live. Anyway, let's start with the undercard. Let's start with the undercard. Former world champion, friend of the show, Charles Martin, 28-3 with a draw, gets in with Devin Vargas, who's 22-7. The only thing about Vargas is that he tends to get knocked out quite a lot. He's been knocked out 6 times in his 7 losses, including last time when he got banged out in 4 rounds by Zhilei Zhang, who of course boxed last weekend, and that was his last fight. It was almost 2 years ago. He hasn't been seen since then. He also went the distance and lost to Junior Farr over 10 rounds, lost in a round to Andy Ruiz, lost in 3 to Dominic Brazil, lost in 6 to Kevin Kingpin Johnson, albeit about 13 years ago. He's been around for a long time, Devin Vargas, but he shouldn't really have anything to trouble Charles Martin, and it's an 8-round fight, that one there. This one's over 10 rounds here. Abner Mares, first time he's boxed in just over 4 years. This is shocking, actually. Former world champion, even though these days he's on the screen doing pundit work. He's 31-3 with a draw. He gets in with friend of the show, really nice guy, Miguel Flores. I'd love to see Flores win. I think this is the right time to beat a big name. This is the right time to get Abner Mares after all this long time of inactivity. The only thing is that Flores tends to lose all of his big fights. He's lost, obviously, to Chris Avalos, lost to Eduardo Ramirez, lost to Leo Santa Cruz. All of his big fights, unfortunately, have been losses. So all the best to Miguel Flores. Like I say, really nice guy, friend of the show. Elsewhere on the card, we've got Rais Aleem, who's 19-0. They're talking about this guy as a future star, perhaps in the future. He boxes here for the WBO, NABO Super Bantamweight title. He's only 5'6", Rais Aleem. I didn't actually notice that. Promoted by Marshall Kaufman. 32 years of age. Okay, that's interesting to me because they are talking about this guy as something for the future for sure. He gets in with Mike Planier, who's 26-1. The one loss came to Juan Carlos Payano 4.5 years ago. That's not a bad guy to lose to. This could be an interesting fight. He holds a win over Joshua Greer Jr. I remember that one. If I'm not mistaken, I think that one was in the bubble during COVID. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Yes, it was. So, yeah, Mike Planier, not a bad fighter, that one. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. We've also got Joey Spencer, 15-0, getting in with the also undefeated Kevin Zambrano, who's 14-0 with a draw. We've got Jose Valenzuela, 12-0, getting in over 10 rounds for the WBC Continental America's lightweight title against Jezreel Corrales, 26-4. We've got Isaac Cruz, 23-2 with a draw. Seems like he's been so active in recent times, really active. Obviously lost to Gervonta Davis in his one loss. He's got 2 losses, hasn't he? Lost to Gervonta Davis, lost early on in his career. Can't remember who it was to. Last time out was able to knock out in 5 rounds Yuriorkis Gamboa. He gets in with Eduardo Ramirez, 27-2 with 3 draws. This guy lost his own years ago to Lee Selby. He's never been stopped though, and he's got a win over Miguel Flores, knocked him out in round 5. He's got a knockout win against Ledwan Barthelemy, a win on points over Miguel Mariaga. It's just another fight, I think, where we're expecting Isaac Cruz to look good. Will he get the knockout? Will he become the first man to stop Ramirez? That, I guess, is the only real question. It's for the WBC Silver Lightweight title, and the main event. It's a good card, I think, but I don't think it's pay-per-view. But the main event, to put that cherry on top of the icing, I'm going to come to you in a minute, Eddie, but I'm going to quickly give my thoughts on it. Andy Ruiz Jr., 34-2. Didn't look fantastic last time out against Chris Arreola, obviously being dropped in round 2. It was a real shock. He did throw about 10,000 punches that night, though. He did manage to win quite wide on the cards in the end. you know, it was his first fight coming back after a year and a half out after losing to Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia. So maybe we let him off for that kind of weird performance against Chris Arreola. But he gets in here with Luis Ortiz, obviously coming off that win against Charles Martin, in which he was looking awful, wasn't he? He was down twice in the first round and the fourth round before coming back and knocking out Charles Martin. It all went horribly wrong for Martin so quickly. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not a great paper. It's not a pay-per-view fight on its own. It's not a pay-per-view event. It's a decent event. The undercard, I think, is probably more exciting than the main event. It's got better fights on it, but probably the names are not as big as these two guys here. I don't know, Eddie, man. I mean, to me, it kind of feels like both these guys really are at the end of their careers, and I mean that respectfully towards Ruiz, but certainly Ortiz. I mean, God, how many fights are we going to see more of him? My thoughts, though, I think it's probably Ruiz's fight to win, probably on points. I don't think we see a stoppage.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I get where you're at with it, and I agree with that, but I think both of these guys, the punchers they are, considering both their previous performances, and both of them being dropped or being hurt, I think it could easily be a stoppage for either guy. I see it be more likely to be Andy Ruiz winning by stoppage if that happens, if it's going to be a stoppage at all. Obviously, we know they're both pretty big punchers. They're both pretty, well, I'll say Ruiz, the quicker-handed guy. Ruiz is the more free-throwing guy. But I think it all depends on the condition, you know what I mean, physically and mentally, and really the age and the wear and tear on Ortiz's body and mind too. I think if he's able to actually give a good account of himself, he has a chance, but I just don't see it at this stage. You know, he's a southpaw, he's a crafty southpaw. You know, him at his best, this would have been a hell of a fight. Ruiz obviously at his best, obviously would have been a hell of a fight. So it's just kind of crazy that this had to happen this late in both their respective careers. But Ruiz, I think obviously, in my opinion, still has the upper hand. But it wouldn't shock me that somehow Ortiz was able to get a stoppage, similar to the whole Charles Martin thing, being that, you know, you figure Charles Martin has more left than Ruiz, and it turned out to be, I mean, not Ruiz, but Ortiz, and it turned out to be the opposite situation happened. So, you know, then if you think about Ruiz's last fight with Arreola and how many times he got hurt and how interesting the fight was and how close, not only say close, but how he was actually, you know, in trouble and he was pushed at times. It just makes you wonder, like, where he is at this point in his career and whether or not, you know, they even really think about him challenging again at a high level, you know, for a title or anything like that in the future. So I think it's just an interesting fight. Yeah, it's, you know, I think it's a little better late than never, but it's still not at the stage we would have liked it, but may still end up being entertaining anyway.
Well, there we have it. I mean, I think if you're listening to myself and Eddie, it translates to we do not advise you betting on this fight at all, because I think it could go the distance. Eddie thinks it could end early. When I hear Eddie's explanation of why it could end early, I really struggle to disagree with it. Obviously, Ortiz was badly hurt against Martin, and like I say, he managed to weather the storm and come back, but it still looked like, whoa, you know, he looks finished, really. Looks like the end for Ortiz. That's what we were saying through those first 4 rounds against Charles Martin. But then when you think about it, he has only been stopped by Deontay Wilder, who stops, you know, 99% of people. So I don't know. And Charles Martin is a bigger puncher than Ruiz, but obviously Ruiz has that volume. And as you say, Ruiz didn't look great against Arreola. Is it because he was out the ring for a year and a half? Well, guess what? He's been out the ring for another year and a half since the Arreola fight. So there's a lot of question marks, and it is set for 12 rounds. Will we see the 12th round? I haven't got a clue now. Eddie's made me really have to think about things. So, yeah, I don't think I'd put any money on that fight. I'm going to see what the odds are, and if there's anything kind of, tempting in terms of a good price, then maybe I'll jump on it just minimally. But other than that, I don't actually advise anything. Like, I'm not certain about anything here. If you even have any faith in me after me telling everyone to put your house on the fact that Zhilei Zhang and Filip Hrgović was never going the distance, and it did. Anyway, that brings the preview part of the show to a close. In part 1, we did the review part, and we had our special guest after that. And then after that, in part 2, we did the news part. Just one piece of news that was mentioned, and then I've just wrapped things up there with the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 359 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A special thank you to our special guest this week, the former co-host of the podcast, Mr. Hasim Rahman Jr. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Joe Cordina will be defending his IBF Super Featherweight World title against his mandatory challenger, Shavkat Rakhimov. That one to go down in Abu Dhabi on November the 5th as part of the Bivol Ramirez undercard. For those that don't know or don't remember, Rakhimov did box for the vacant IBF Super Featherweight World title in the past. It was back in February of 2021 where he and Joseph Jojo Diaz drew over 12 rounds, and many people felt that Rakhimov deserved the win and deserved to be champion that night, so I predict a really hard fight here for Joe Cordina. And also another fight's been added to that undercard. It's Chantel Cameron against Jessica McCaskill. That fight to take place at 140, so McCaskill's coming down in weight here. Chantel has got 2 of the world titles at that weight, and I'm told that the other 2 world titles held by Callie Reese have been made vacant while she focuses on her Hollywood acting career, so it's a chance here for one of these ladies to become undisputed super lightweight world champion. That aside, it's an unbelievable fight. There's no way I can't see this fight being an all-out war. Both ladies are so aggressive. Both ladies have heart in abundance, and this, for me, and I know that this is a bold prediction, but for me, this is the female equivalent to Hagler Hearns or Gatti Ward. I cannot wait for that fight there. November the 5th is the day in Abu Dhabi. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.